Good morning, my Teaserking family. How's everybody today? I am in Portugal, so I have not been on for a week. I just wanted to touch base with you. I doubt anybody will be on because of the time difference. It's 10 a.m. here. So let's go through football, college, Max on Tuesday, Wednesday, and then yesterday's game, Cincinnati beat East Carr. USC big over Colorado, and Fresno State UNLV. So let's look at the line for today. See if there's anything. Well, I'm not gonna go through every game. I'm just gonna go through the bigger games. Duke 9.5, 49.5 hasn't moved. Notre Dame 16.5, 39 over Navy hasn't really moved. Oklahoma 8.5, 68.5. That's moved up. Was 6.5. Well, 7.5 and 66. So some money on Oklahoma. In that game, well, let's go through the lines first. Pitt 5.5, 41.5. Ohio State 39.5, 60.5. Tennessee 19.5, 56.5. Kentucky 17.5, 46.5. SMU 17.5, 72.5. Illinois 6.5, 44.5. Michigan State 9.5, 41.5. LSU 33.5, 61.5. Houston 19.5, 56.5. Penn State 10.5, 56.5. North Carolina State 18.5, 41.5. Michigan 30.5, 49.5. Georgia Tech 1.5, 44.5. In this game, like most of the Miami offense is out. Van Dyke, if he plays, he's got a bad shoulder. Some linemen out, running backs out. Don't get excited with Miami here because they're a dog, but Georgia Tech stinks anyway. So my guess is it'd be a low scoring game. Clemson 7, 52.5. App State Marshall looks even, 47.5. Minnesota 17.5, 40.5. Washington State 9.5, 59.5. Troy 8.5, 45.5 over Army. Alabama 11.5, 64.5. Iowa State 1.5, 48.5. I would doubt Spencer Sanders is playing because of he hurt his shoulder pretty bad. He couldn't play last week. I doubt a shoulder and a sling is going to be better. And the line still shows Iowa State 1.5. So I bet that he's probably not playing. If he does, I don't know how healthy he'll be. Iowa 1.5, 35.5. The Air Force 21.5, 37.5. Iowa 35.5. Now it's an under game, but it's such a low number. I'm gonna parallel it with an over game. Let's see. UTSA 17.5, 68.5. Florida 8.5, 58.5. Kansas, Texas Tech 3.5, 64.5. Baylor 2.5, 52.5. Oregon 12.5, 72.5. Georgia 16.5, 52.5. Now this game doesn't make sense. Wake is 4.5, 78.5. This over is ridiculous. They'll never get there. North Carolina's been an over because of the App State game in the beginning, but they haven't played over really since then. So this is way high. Wake with Hartman's good, but North Carolina's got a pretty good defense, and they'll probably try to run the ball. I don't know. Maybe this game gets there, but I can't lay 78.5. Texas 7 and 65.5 over TCU. I don't understand this line at all. Why is Texas Christian? I mean, they've been dogged like 3 or 4 times already. They haven't lost. They got a great offense. Texas isn't a killer. I don't understand that line. Auburn 1.5, 48.5. Florida State 7.5, 50.5. Oregon State 12.5, 47.5. Utah 24.5, 53.5. And then this is the other game. UCLA 19.5, 77.5 parallels the Iowa 35, right? Iowa 35 is too low to really go under, but this game's too high to really go over. UCLA Arizona, love it over, but it's 77.5. The line dictates just to watch. I mean, 71. Charbonnet, I think, is out for UCLA or he's injured, although their backup was fine. But I don't, that's way too high of a number. It's just hard because if it's not a close game, you end up where it's 50-10. The 50 doesn't really, they just run the clock, don't look to score anymore. So it might not get there. So unless you have a close game. Now, Arizona does score a lot. I would have liked this if it was 70, 71. I go over 65, I can deal with it. But 71, you're looking at a more than a 40-30, which is not that easy. San Jose State 2.5, 40.5 is a good under. And Hawaii, Utah State 10.5, 55.5. So if we look at what's happened, a lot of the MAC games, I had the Central Buffalo over 31-27, 58. It was 53. See, the over-under gave me a good number, and the running back from Central, he didn't even play that much. The other guy came in and ran for 200 yards, so had that one. Kent finally came up, beat Bowling Green. Memphis, Tulsa, I don't know what happened in that game. I had that game over 62, so I was 56. Tulsa, their quarterback got hurt, so he only played a little bit. And Memphis only scored 26, kicked a lot of field goals, didn't quite get that game. Yesterday, Cincy, East Carolina wasn't under, but scary one. USC, so here's the point of USC, right? They're laying 66, so you don't know if will Colorado score enough to go over? If they don't, then you lay the 34. Well, it fell both. They get a 72, so they go over, and they win by 38, so they cover the 34. But it was that's where you almost take USC, but the line took me off of it. 34.5 was just way too many. Fresno State, Vegas. Now Hayner's back, had a big night. Also, the UNLV quarterback Brumfield's back. He's the one that we were betting over and betting on Vegas. Then he got hurt, so we got off of him. Now he's back, and they go to a 67, 37-30. Well, you didn't see that coming. I thought Fresno State laying 1 was going to win with Hayner. But this is where the quarterback makes a huge difference, right? He plays. They score 37 a game. Look at them against the other games. The backup quarterback was terrible, and they couldn't score. Look at the San Jose State. If this guy played against San Jose State, we would never have lost San Jose State. We would have had Fresno State. So that's the games today. I'm going to break down the highlights. So let's see. Who do I want? That's a good free pick for everybody today. All right, let's free pick SMU. You, as you know, got like 100 points last week. South Florida's terrible. They got killed. And it wasn't really a good team last week. Who beat the hell out of them? South Florida lost to Temple. 54-28. Temple. So if Temple's putting up 54, and yeah, God only knows what SMU is going to do with that offense. You're laying 17.5. So you'll look at the over-under 73, and you go, well, am I going to get points from South Florida? I'm expecting SMU to kill them based on putting up 75 points last week against Houston, which is a much better team than South Florida. So you're laying 11. So in this game, I don't mess with the over-under because I think they'll just beat them by 30. So there's no point in will South Florida score. You just want SMU to win. And, you know, you're laying 11.5. So I like SMU there. Let's walk down. So VTech and Duke. I like Duke laying the 3.5 more than I like the 49. VTech doesn't score a lot. Duke is very good. Good quarterback. They'll score points. You're laying 3.5 at home. I think that's very doable. Oklahoma 8.5, 68 against West Virginia. Now this scares me because West Virginia at home is not West Virginia on the road, as we saw. They went to Texas Tech, got killed, but at home they beat Baylor. And then I think SMU took care of them, or Baylor. No, it was SMU or TCU took care of them at West Virginia last week. Oklahoma usually wins here. I like the game over 68, go to 62. I like the better at 66-60, but I just think West Virginia should score more. Oklahoma's terrible defensively, great offense. So it's a perfect over team. West Virginia, I got as an over team. I don't really want to mess with Oklahoma having to win. Again, I don't want to bet a weak defense, which is what Oklahoma is. So I think they'll be high scoring. I know Oklahoma will put up 40 to 50 points here. Should be like the Baylor game, 43-40. So where did that come from, right? Where did West Virginia light up Baylor and then lose to Texas Tech, who has no defense? So like this game over. Purdue, Illinois, Illinois 7-45. Illinois is a strong defensive team running the ball. They lost to Michigan State last week, so I look for them at home. Purdue got shut out by Iowa, so Illinois is the same type of defense. So I think this game goes under. We have enough here at 45 to go under. As I was explaining in the Iowa-Wisconsin game, it's 35. The number is so low, it's hard to go under 42. As we got burnt by the Northwestern Iowa game when it was this 36, and they scored 47 on the last play of the game. Northwestern scores a touchdown to lose by 20, and it caused it to. So had it been a normal over-under of 42-43, then that would have worked. But that's the trouble with these. When they're that low, for some reason, the offense scores more. Unless it's Iowa State, it tends to be, these teams score. Wisconsin, they're a whole different animal on the road than at home. And we'll get to that game. But so I think Illinois, because it's 45, should keep this under. Michigan State, Rutgers, Michigan State beats Illinois last week at home. Here they got a weak Rutgers team. Michigan State, good passing attack. Laying 10, I'm not laying 4 with Michigan State. Teams are different as dogs than they are as favorites. Here you have them as a favorite. Probably a low-scoring game here. Ohio State, Indy. Ohio State 40-58. Very tough game. Indiana's got some receivers that are out, and Ohio State, they're going to score a lot. Question is, what does Indiana do? And then the question is, do you go over the 58 or do you go 34? So it's how much do you think Indiana scores gets you over if you think they score a lot. I think both quarterbacks are questionable. It just seems like an Ohio State game. And they're much better at home than they are on the road. So the Northwestern game was a windy game last week. So I think Ohio State beats them, but it's a big number. I can't lay 34 in the Big Ten, even though they're at home and they'll probably light them up. Kentucky, Vandy, Kentucky 17.5, 47.5. I do like this game under Kentucky. Good defensive team, not much offense. Vandy look like an offensive team, but then they weren't playing Hawaii and Coastal, Central Illinois or whoever they played week 2. So after that, we watched Vandy get shut out by Georgia and Alabama. So Kentucky's got one of those type of defenses. So I like this game's 47. This game's big enough where under 53 should be good. Had it been 35, it's hard. So that's where the points tell you what to do. I've been trying to balance this game. So I looked at the Georgia game. It's 26-22, Georgia, Missouri. So I think Tennessee puts up a 35 in the game. Not explosive. Missouri's got a good defense, but I don't see this getting too out of hand. Lane 20, I don't know, but I do like the over 56, over 50. So Georgia was a 48, 26-22. Tennessee, lane 14 against a good defensive team. I don't know, but I do think they will score. All I need is 30 to 20 in the game. I think Tennessee gets you upper 30s. Missouri should be good for 17. So 38, 17 is 55. We need 50. I think that's probably the best way to go in this game because Tennessee will score. They will be explosive. And they're probably pissed off after losing to Georgia. They have to win. They have to keep winning. Although Georgia's not going to lose twice. So they to get into the playoff, they can't lose again. So they have momentum on their side. Arkansas, LSU, me and Nick were going over this. LSU will be flat after beating Alabama. That's the Miami, Oakland 74 playoff game, right? You can't win like that, like the way they won at home, and not be flat the next week. There's no way they're going to be as strong as they were. Arkansas is an explosive team. LSU, on the other hand, did beat Alabama, and so they have that confidence. They're like, okay, we beat Alabama, here we go. So I'm not sure what to do with this. I said to go over, it's 62, go over 56, because Arkansas with Jefferson scores a lot. And LSU is not going to really hold them down. However, they did hold Alabama down. But I've been getting so confused because Alabama plays Texas 20-19. And then everybody else is playing Texas high scoring. So I think it's Alabama's lack of a running attack that makes them not Alabama. So you almost got to think of Alabama as like Mississippi State or something. They don't have that strong a defense. So when you compare teams, I don't know who Alabama is this year. I think Arkansas puts up 35 points in the game. The question is, what does LSU do? I still don't have a feel of LSU. Running quarterback really doesn't pass well, doesn't use Boutte like he should. I just think it's a very high-scoring game. I think LSU will run the quarterback. Arkansas has no defense. Arkansas is a lot like Oklahoma, very strong offense, good quarterback, and very weak defense. So hard to bet on Arkansas here getting the 9 because you don't know what their defense is going to do, but then it leads to an over because Arkansas is going to light up LSU with Jefferson, and LSU should light up Arkansas. And the question is, how strong is LSU's defense in this? I don't know. But Arkansas at home should be a pretty high-scoring game, I would think. Notre Dame Navy, 16-40 Notre Dame. I kind of like the game under. Notre Dame's strong defense. Navy's quarterback's out, so Navy's not going to score like they've been. Notre Dame, lane 10, they play Navy every year, so they know how to defend them. Probably doable if we trust Notre Dame's offense. Again, they keep blocking punts, so they're going to block Navy's punt. You can almost, okay, let's include one block punt by Notre Dame in the game. I just think scoring. I think Navy's just going to ball control them, and they got a decent defense. Notre Dame's got a very good defense. So I just think it'll be low scoring. Even if Notre Dame covers the 10 on the 10, I still think it'll be 24-0 or something like that. I gave you SMU laying the 11.5. I think they just blow out South Florida. South Florida is terrible. Washington, Oregon. These are both overs. Oregon's 11.5, 12.5 in the game, 72. The line hasn't moved. This is a weird one. They thrown in at 72. Here, I think it's low enough over. Washington and Oregon are both explosive. Neither has a defense. Washington, I look to get 40 points. Oregon, I look to get at least 40. That's an 80 to 90 point game. You're laying 72, but down to 66 means you need 40 to 33, and you got a winner. 40 to 30, you got a winner. And I think that's what you're going to have here. I don't see how you stop it. Oregon's going to get their 50, but I don't see how you stop Washington. This should be a close game. It should be a competitive game. Even if one team gets down, they're going to be able to score, and Washington can score. But Oregon, they're not a great defensive team there, which is ironic with the Georgia defensive coordinator being their coach. You think they're their team, but they'll be a better defensive team coming on. So I definitely like the over in this game from 72 down to 66. I think that's the way. I don't know that I'm going to fuck with the Oregon 11 and a half, 12 and a half to win by 6. Again, I don't want to bet on a weak defensive team to win. Washington will certainly capable of making it a game, almost like Washington in the 18. I mean, that's a lot of points to give Washington, but I think the best way to play the game's over. Arizona, UCLA. Now, conversely, where I love this game over, it's a 77, and that 5 points is huge because, as I was saying, so now I'm laying 71. Well, what if UCLA starts blowing them out and Arizona doesn't get there, right? And then all of a sudden it's 45-17 is a 6, and UCLA runs the ball to run the clock, and that they've got the big lead. You might not get to 71. There's a big difference, 66-71. One's a 40-30 game. That's doable. Here, a 40-30 game loses. If it's 40-30, you got 70. You need 71 or 72 to win it. It's just too big a number. And this is Vegas saying we don't want you to bet over under on this game. And that's what you have. So I like the game over, but the number's too high. Like the Iowa number's too low. It's just, it's not a good, bet. It's just too many points. Stanford, Utah, 24 and a half, 53 and a half. Utah, Rising's back, running back's back. I have to look at them to kill Stanford. Stanford's been playing terrible really the whole year. Here they go. And will it go over? 53 is a low over, 46, 47 and a half. I think that gets there too. And it could be all Utah, but I look at Utah in the 40s, Stanford with not much. So will I get over? Possibly. Will Stanford cover? I like Stanford laying the 18, or Utah laying the 18 and a half there. I think they win by 30 easier than it goes over, because they might win 38-0, and you don't get the over because they got a good defense, Utah, and they have to win the game. So again, now you're getting to the point where these teams need to win the game as they're playing for division titles. So now there's a new metric that we need to look at is who needs the game. Like Alabama must win after 2 losses. They're out of it, and the Texas game. But like Tennessee has to win if they want to get to the playoff. They can't have 2 losses. All these one-loss teams have to win. Georgia has to win. They still, they beat Tennessee. They don't want to lose here, and then maybe they lose the last game. So Georgia's still a go, but the Tennessees and the UCLAs and the Utahs, these teams have to win. Oregon, Washington, Washington I think is probably out of it, but they still need to win. So now you're getting these one-loss teams needing to win. So that, and again in college, they want to win by 50 to get higher in the polls. So that's get these big scores because they need it. So they look impressive, because if they only win by 10, if Ohio State wins by 3 over Indiana, they look terrible. But if they win by 50, then everybody loves Ohio State. So keep that in mind. That's in the back of their minds. They can't just win. They're going to win big. And that's what separates college and the pros. So I like Utah laying the 18 and a half there. Georgia State, Lou Monroe. Georgia State, 13.5, 58. Georgia State, very explosive team. Lou Monroe, no defense, but they scored a lot the last couple of games. I don't know if they switched quarterbacks or what. The over-under is only 58, so you go over 52, which is very doable in this game, provided Lou Monroe has switched and they're playing better ball. At least from an offensive standpoint. I think 52 is a low number. So I like over. Georgia State probably puts up 40 by themselves. We need 52. We need 10 points from Lou Monroe to probably go over. So because it's a low over and Georgia State really doesn't have a defense, I think the thing gets over. Arkansas State and Mass. Arkansas State 17.5, 49. UMass is the worst team, the Z team. I think Arkansas State kills them. They're explosive. They're 17.5. You only lay 11.5. UMass just can't score. They're just terrible. Arkansas State being a over team is what I look for, right? They're going to score a lot. UMass can't keep up. You can't go over with the game, but only laying 11, it's a small number for an explosive team against the Z team. So definitely like Arkansas State laying the 11.5 there. Houston Temple. Houston, as we know, played the 150-point game with SMU. So they can score, and they have no defense. Temple has no defense. Temple wasn't under, but they switched quarterbacks. They started scoring a lot. Well, they put up 54 against South Florida. Well, even weak Temple doesn't put that up. So in that they scored 50 on South Florida, I'm coming in with I only need 50 in this game, which Houston should get 40 of it. I think if Temple has switched and started to score, and that's what happens now. You switch quarterbacks and the whole dimension of your team changes. So I look for Temple get 20 for it. Houston in the 40s is 60. And again, I got a low over-under number of 56. All he needs 50. Absolutely. Houston doesn't have a defense and they're explosive. So this game should be by half 50 points. Clemson, Louisville. Clemson's still playing this idiot quarterback. I don't get it. Clemson lane 7. I don't know with the backup quarterback. This is easy. It screws the over and the under because if Ukalabli plays, it's an under. Louisville, very strong defense. Louisville, they're both A teams, right? But Clemson, who the fuck knows what you get from them? Their quarterback sucks, but he's been running, and they got the good runner. And then their defense is supposed to be good, but what the hell is Notre Dame? That's ridiculous. So I don't know who Clemson is. They're not as good as you think they are. So I'm really laying off of this game. This would have been a Clemson laying the 1, but not now. But Clemson had to be embarrassed with this loss against Notre Dame. I don't know. What it looks like to me is it's an under game because you got two strong defenses. Clemson plays defense going. So this is really a just watch game. But I think Louisville's got a strong defense. I think they hang in there with 13 if the starter plays for Clemson. If they go to the backup, and this is the problem trying to bet Clemson now, is you're going to get the starter or the backup. This we don't know. Miami, Georgia Tech, as I said, please be careful. Miami, see, I'm sneezing even here. Miami, Van Dyke's out, or it looks very doubtful, and half the team's out, the old linemen, some receivers. So you have a banged-up Miami team, which kind of leads me to an under in the game. Georgia Tech, their quarterback's questionable. Problem is Georgia Tech's an over team, right? They're a weak offense with a weak defense, but Miami can't take advantage. There's been a lot of taking if Van Dyke's healthy and they're playing well, but without Van Dyke, Miami's not. You can't bet them offensively. They're a very good defensive team, Miami. So I would say this is an under without Van Dyke, and Georgia Tech probably won't score much. So usually when a quarterback's out, it turns to an under game because then they got to change the game plan. This guy's not that good, so we're going to run the ball. Then it becomes an Army-Navy game. We're going to run a lot, play defense, and that's what you have there. So play the game under if you want to play that game. Iowa State, Oak State. I'm assuming Sanders isn't playing. I'm assuming the injuries are still there, and I'll tell you, even if Spencer Sanders was healthy, I'd still play the game under because it's Iowa State. They played Texas 24-21. They played Oklahoma 27-17. They just play 40-point games. The over-under is enough at 49. I love it under 55 here. I'm not fucking around with the point spread. Iowa State plays under games. It's what they do. Oklahoma State, as you saw, got shut out by Kansas State, and last week they didn't come against Kansas, who has no defense. What are they going to do against this defense? They're not going to do anything. So I doubt Sanders will play. Now that they've lost 2 in a row, they're out of the race. Unfortunately, they're a very good team, but I can't see it. Oak State has a good defense, so this game should be in the 20s, but we go under 55. I don't see it getting there. not without Sanders. And their backup quarterbacks suck for some reason. Wisconsin, Iowa, as I mentioned, this one from Wisconsin -1 to Iowa -1, and over under 35. I like the game under, but not with this line. It's just too low. So if you do, it's an under bet, but it's almost, 41, really? It's just too low. A 42, this would be a lock under 48, but a 36, it's almost a double teaser in reverse where I'm already teasing it. Now I've lost a whole team. I've lost 42 to 36, almost going over 30 game under. It's just, I'd like the game under. It's just the points are just way too low. Michigan, Nebraska. Michigan's up to 30 and 48. Michigan has to win. Nebraska's terrible. Michigan run it down their throats. Lane 30. It's a big number for Michigan. Nebraska's terrible. Michigan probably wins by 30. I think right around there. Maybe take Michigan, lay the 24. Again, you don't know what you're getting with Nebraska. They could score a little and go over, but I don't know. I think Michigan, they're just really playing Army football now. They're just running a lot with a good defense, so it leads to probably more under games than over. So 48.5 is kind of a low number with Nebraska's defense. So I think Michigan's away, but this is not. I wouldn't play this game. Penn State, Mary. Penn State 10.5, 57.5 or 59. I like the game always been scoring. Maryland can score with Tagliavua. Penn State doesn't have that great of a defense. They're at home, and they hate Maryland. So I think they pile it on here, and they've been scoring. So I think this game goes over. Arizona State, Washington State. This spread's ridiculous. I don't mind the 8.5, but 59.5 in Washington State game. You've got to be kidding. Washington State's a very strong defensive game because they scored a lot last week. Had nothing to do for this game to be a normal game and be an under game as Washington State plays. Alabama, Ole Miss. Alabama 11.5, 63.5. I don't know who Alabama is. I think they're going to go over against Mississippi State, and they shut them out. And on the other hand, I think it's going to be over with LSU, and they don't score. They only get there because they tied it at 24 at the end of the game, so it's a 48. I don't see how you can bet this game over. Ole Miss just runs the ball. You can't run on Alabama. I don't know. Alabama, maybe laying 5.5 after the loss would be the only way to play this game, but over under, I don't know who Alabama is anymore. So let's go. LTech, UTSA, UTSA 1868. They're both over teams. UTSA, I like Frank Harris, quarterback. 68 is a big number, but they're both explosive, and neither has a defense. UTSA played UAB to a high score last week. I like the game over 68 to 62. LTech, UTSA doesn't have a great defense, so it's hard to lay 18 or 12 to an LTech team who scores a lot, and neither has a defense. I think the over is a good way to play this game. Georgia, Mississippi State. We'll make this the other part of the free play. Georgia laying 16.54. We saw what Mississippi State did against Alabama. We're still waiting for them to score. They got killed, and they didn't score. And I was surprised. But Mike Leach, 4th and 1 is his own 29, really goes for it against Alabama, runs the ball, doesn't get it. Game's over. Alabama scores 2 plays later from 29 yards out, and that was it. And they get shut out. So you're not going to see any scoring from Mississippi State here. Georgia got the big Tennessee win. Everybody thought Georgia didn't have a defense. They showed up. Take this game under. 54 is a big number. You go under 60. Now with Georgia's just going to put them asleep, pressure the quarterback, just like the Tennessee game. You won't see a lot of points. They'll win, their typical 38-0 or whatever Georgia does to you. run the ball, very good quarter. I like Bennett. There's nothing wrong with this guy. They got the tight end. So I like the game. Definitely like the game under. Kansas State, Baylor 353. I like this game over. I think Kansas State's been scoring with Howard, the quarterback, and I just think I don't want to take K-State 9 against Baylor. You can't take Baylor -3 to +3. Doesn't make sense. 53, the number is very low. I definitely see 47. That's a joke there. Go over. Kansas, Texas Tech. We all know Kansas is an over team. We've won every week with Kansas going over, except for last week when Oak State, we didn't know the quarterback was playing or not. We kind of got fucked because we didn't even know he was injured. Next thing we know, he's got a hurt shoulder. Well, where did that come from? This week he's at least on the injury report, but I don't see that. But here they're playing Texas Tech, who is fairly explosive. They have 2 or 3 quarterbacks, so one guy looked like he's injured. The guy he played last week fine. So Texas Tech scores. They'll score on Kansas, who doesn't have a good defense. Kansas will score on everybody. And you got 64 here, so you go over 58. I mean, in the 50s with Kansas, Texas Tech, that's an over. TCU, Texas lane 7.5, 65. Why is Texas favored by 7.5 in this game? TCU. All right, so you got a new coach, and he's been lighting it up, and they scored, even if they're down against Kansas State, 28-10. They came back and won it. So it doesn't matter. They're going to score. They were down big against Oak State, and they came back and won the game. So even if they're down here, you get 13.5 with TCU. I mean, thank you. So I'm not fucking with the over in this game, although I think it goes over. I think TCU and 13 is way too big. I don't get this line. And every time I didn't get the line, we won where we've had Baylor getting points and Oak State getting points. It just didn't make sense. And every time we've done that, we've won. So I'll read the line better than they can give the line. So give me 13 and TCU all day. They're undefeated, by the way. They beat Baylor and Oak State and all these good teams. Coastal Carolina, beware. McCall's out with the hurt foot for a month. So stay away from Coastal Carolina. We don't know what the backup's going to do. The over-under went from 54 to 48. Just be careful with him out. So you got Van Dyke out. You probably got the State quarterback out, Sanders. So be careful. Syracuse quarterback, Florida State, 751. This game's probably an under without the quarterback. You got the backup in, but Florida State looked good against Miami. Maybe they're starting to play at Syracuse, who's much better than you think and good defensively. This should have been a dog game if the Syracuse quarterback plays, but right now he's questionable, so I'm leaving this game alone. And last game, San Jose State, 2.5, 41 against San Diego State. This game is an under. San Diego State doesn't score. San Jose State, we know, doesn't score. So I like that game under. So those are my picks for the week. In Portugal this week, as you can see, it's 10 in the morning, 10:30 here. I know in Michigan it's like 4:30 in the morning. So let me know if you have questions or comments. I'm not seeing any comments, but I don't know. It should be working. I'm on YouTube. So again, I'm in the hotel. So I will be back next Wednesday, and we'll do a show Thursday. I'll try to do a brief pro show tomorrow if I get the time. Otherwise, that's it. So I wanted to just stop in with that and ask if there's any questions. Anyway, so your free pick, take SMU, take Georgia under is the free teaser today. A lot of good games today. Again, the teams that need it, for the playoff or just to win their division. It's getting down to the nitty gritty. And in college, you got to win by 50. And pro, they just want to win by 1. So good analysis by my one friend. He says to me, do you like the under Thursday night? He says it's rainy and windy, which is what I'm teaching you. If it's rainy and windy, it's an under. So he took the under in the Atlanta car game, and he won with it. So that was a good analysis. That's what I'm trying to teach you is to think about the games. And there's just so many variables that you have to understand and be careful with. So any questions? I don't see. Anyway, good luck today. Hope you make some money. If you want, www.teaserking.com, and then you can email me. I still see the email, but I'm not home to get on and do as much YouTube as I'd like. So, but I do have my phone. So if you email me with questions or comments, I will get it. So you'll get that on www.teaserking.com. If you want the picks, it's a huge day today. I got 1, 2, 3. I got 6 locks going today, and I got a lock tomorrow. So there's a total of 8 teams locked this week. So I try to save them for the Saturday. I always struggle with the Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday games because the Fridays were okay, but some of these games you get strange results. Like Thursday's game, Memphis, Tulsa, explosive teams, and they play a 36. I mean, okay, the quarterback got hurt in the Tulsa game, but generally they're out of rhythm and out of sequence, right? They play every Saturday. You get into your routine as we do, right? Maybe you work Monday through Friday and you got the weekend off. All of a sudden you're doing something on Tuesday you normally do on Saturday, and it definitely screws up your whole system. So that's what happens. So that's why I'm a little more careful. I did play a CMU over, which did win, but then I had Memphis over with it, and I lost. Again, that was shocking. Memphis scored 26 on Tulsa with that defense. I mean, it just didn't make sense. But again, that's a Thursday night. I don't know if weather played an issue like it did. If it did in the Carolina game, it might have in the Memphis game. And again, if it's a rainy, windy day in Carolina and it was in Memphis, then that explains the low score. But that's what you're looking for. So you're always looking for what team do I play? Now, the overs have to be Washington, Oregon should be over because they both can score. And so therefore, the only way an over really loses if there's a lot of field goals, a lot of go for force or turnovers deep in the other territory where you've driven down from your 10 to their 10 and then you fumble. And the thing that drives me crazy is he's going for 4th downs, which to me is like a turnover. When you drive to the 10 and go for it, 4th and 2, and you run up the middle and you don't get it, you just fumbled. It screws the over-unders. But I don't see that with Oregon, Washington. They're more quarterback reliant and more score a lot. Anyway, so be careful and have a purpose while you bet. So those are today's lines. Again, being out of the country, the reason I like coming on about 10:30 is you get the updated Vegas lines, which I don't have right now because it's still it's probably 1 a.m. in Vegas, so they haven't got the new Saturday morning games. So read the lines of the games when you can. All right, everybody, I am off. Good luck today. I hope everybody wins, and I will try to have a quick thing tomorrow. Otherwise, please feel free to email me with questions and comments. All right, everybody, have a great day. Good luck. www.teaserking.com. You can get my email, make your picks, get my picks, everything else. All right. Thank you very much. All right, my love. I am out.